Okay, homeschoolers, listen close. What if your curriculum could be beautiful, simple, and fun for your whole family? That's exactly what you'll get with The Good and the Beautiful. Solid academics that strengthen young minds while building character. And now's the time to stock up. Save 15% on everything during the early bird sale. Plus, get free shipping when you buy 5 or more books from our bookshop, only through March 17th. So fill your cart with language arts, math, science, history, and more. Visit goodandbeautiful.com and use discount code SPRING26 during checkout.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save some money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could be hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 457 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. Obviously, according to you, I'm number one, too.
You are number one.
Yeah, I've seen that. Uno.
Number one in our hearts. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout-outs. We had Matilda Mwinma Gitanga.
Oh, Mwinwa.
Sandra Swisher jumped out to her highest level.
What's going on, Swisher?
Young Lee.
Well, if you're going to be young, be a Lee.
Olivia Doss.
What's going on, Doss?
Sabaton Queen.
Hey, Queen.
Jules.
What's going on, Jules?
Andy Roundtree.
Hey, Roundtree.
And last but not least, Kate Means.
And she's not mean. She just means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She means what she says.
She meets the means.
I don't even know what that means. If we go back into the vault, this week we selected Karen Jones.
Hey, Karen.
Yeah, thanks for the new support, the continued support. It all means a lot. We have an episode out right now on True Crime All the Time where we're talking about Erica Green. And Erica Green was a young girl who was found dead. She was unidentified for 4 years and known as Precious Doe. And then after she was identified, her killers became known, and who they were was kind of shocking. And it was a hard episode for us to do because we did not like them at all.
We did not. I was really pissed off.
Yeah, they were terrible people. And I'm assuming still are.
Yeah, people like that don't change.
All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
On February 23rd, 1997, the bodies of 33-year-old Kimberly Stephan and 55-year-old Dennis Young were found shot to death inside Dennis's home in Greenville, Ohio. At the time of her death, Kimberly was in the process of finalizing her divorce from her abusive husband, who police identified as the prime suspect. So there's a couple of things that jump out at me. Number one is we're doing a case close to home. Greenville is very close to us.
It is.
And then number two, how many times, Gibbs, have we heard of this? A woman is killed while she's in the process of either trying to leave an abusive husband or, in this case, finalizing a divorce from an abusive husband or partner, right? It can be either. And the fact that, they're coming out and naming him the prime suspect. We know just based on the fact of who he is, he's going to be on the police radar, high at the top. But to actually say prime suspect, okay, what's that tell you?
I mean, it says a lot, actually. But typically, police are pretty careful about stating things like that.
Yeah, so, I think that means a heck of a lot if they're going to come right out and say it. Kim Stephan was born in Greenville, Ohio on October 1st, 1957. She had two sons, Jamie Stevens and Jackie Lawson, from her prior marriages, Kim earned an accounting degree so she could make more money to support her children. She worked as the accounting manager for the Council on Rural Service Programs. Kim's coworkers later created a victims assistance fund. In her memory, Natalie Malott told the Greenville Daily Advocate in 1997, Kim was always a person with a smile on her face and willing to talk. She never wanted anyone to feel alone. And by forming this coalition in memory of Denny and her, we felt we could increase the awareness of the domestic violence problem and let her smile live on. And it is something we do see, right? Obviously, there is a tragedy, but in the wake of that tragedy, people are trying to do some good things.
Right.
Often in the name of the victim or victims, as is the case here. Kim married her third husband, Robert Bob Stephan, in 1991. She and her sons lived with Bob until October 1996, when Kim filed for divorce. Kim filed a domestic violence report against Bob that same month. Her restraining order demanded that he be forbidden from contacting, annoying, harassing, molesting, striking, injuring, or disturbing her during the divorce process, per the Cincinnati Enquirer.
It's a pretty thorough order.
That's pretty comprehensive language, right?
Yeah.
Basically, don't do anything.
Stay away.
Kim's friend John Thompson recalled to investigators years later. Kim said, he's crazy. She's scared to death of him. Kim's friend Bethany Gonzalez said in an interview she didn't like the way he treated the boys. She talked about the bruises and being slapped around. And unfortunately, we do have to talk about domestic violence quite a bit.
We do.
Because it crops up in so many of these cases. It's just an ongoing problem that needs to be stamped out. I just have no idea how to make that happen.
Yeah.
Or how it's going to, come about.
But you're right. It needs to stop. And, this other thing of if I can't have her, nobody can have her or, have them.
Yes.
That mindset needs to be removed.
Yeah, I agree, because it just never seems to work out well.
Yeah.
Kim's brother-in-law, Shane Murray, visited her in October 1996 before she filed for divorce. He said in a phone interview for the show Cold Justice, she was very miserable. She was just in real bad marital status. She told us that she was leaving him. There's no way to patch things up, she said. And she wanted just to be as far away as possible from him. The following day, he accused her of screwing around on him. He's waving a gun around, telling her he's going to kill her and her kids. If she leaves, that's what she told us directly. Said he'd burn everything she owned if she left that house.
See, and that's what I have a problem with, right? I mean, there's going to be unhappy relationships. What does that solve by saying, I don't care if you don't want me anymore. You're not leaving here. You're going to stay with me. And if you leave, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill the kids. I'm going to burn the house, everything down. But what does that really solve?
Yeah, because how's the relationship going to be even if that person stays because they're afraid of you?
Yeah.
But to me, it's not about the relationship maybe so much as I think for these guys, or a lot of these guys, it's just around the control.
Absolutely.
They just want the control. It's not really how good the relationship is or any of that. So if she leaves, he loses the control. If he's able to make her stay, he keeps the control. And that's what it's all about. According to Shane, Bob had the phone wires unhooked from the home and disabled the car to prevent Kim from leaving. He told her she couldn't have contact with the outside world.
There you go. That's total control.
It is. And again, I don't know how this would ever work out well, how you could ever build a meaningful or have a meaningful relationship from this kind of conduct.
Well, there's no trust, right? You don't trust me because you are unhooking the phone, the way to get the car started. You are basically kidnapping me, holding me hostage here.
And don't forget, threatened my life, the life of my kids, all of that. Kim told her family at one point, if we leave, he's going to kill us. Kim and her sons moved into their own place after she filed for divorce. Around Thanksgiving 1996, she started dating 55-year-old Dennis Young, the manager of a local Speedway gas station. Dennis had lived in Greenville most of his life and was well known in the community. Dennis's brother Stephen recalled that people stopped at the gas station on their way to work just to see Dennis. Dennis was married for 30 years and had 4 adult children. His daughter, Joy Fry, said that Dennis was a good husband, father, and grandfather. Dennis lost his wife to cancer. In 1994, he also had throat cancer, but recovered. Dennis's sister, Sherry Vance, said that after he lost his wife, he went off the deep end, but was doing better and enjoying life again by the time he started dating Kim.
So sounds like a really good guy.
Well, if he's the type of guy that people look forward to stopping into the gas station just so they can, say hi to him and he makes them feel better. Yeah, you get a sense of what type of guy this was. Sherry told the Daily Advocate he was totally a family man. He never met an enemy. He enjoyed life and his family. Bob Stephan made comments to people about his displeasure at Kim's new relationship. And that doesn't shock me one bit. We've already talked about what kind of guy this person was.
Yeah.
He threatened to kill Kim and her sons. Does it shock you in any way that he's not going to be happy when she's dating someone new?
Well, yeah, I mean, he didn't even want her to leave the house.
But now she's finally gotten away from him and she's found what seems to be a good guy.
Right.
Everybody says is a good guy. She might actually start to be happy. And not only has he lost control over her, well, now she's happy. So he can't be happy about that either.
Yeah. What do you mean you're happy?
You're happy without me?
How can that be?
Deanna Young, a bartender at the local American Legion post, said that sometimes Bob came in and was quiet. Other times he came in, got drunk, and talked about his problems. He mentioned that he drove past Kim's house a few times to see whose car was there. He told Deanna he was thinking about ending his life and once held a loaded gun to his head.
Okay.
Now, bartenders hear a lot.
They do.
But I don't know if he had this gun at the bar to his head or he was relaying that he had it to his head somewhere else outside the bar. But to me, what really kind of sparks my interest is this notion of driving by Kim's house all the time, again, looking to see whose car is there. It's like he just can't let go.
Well, he made the mess. According to her, he made this mess and she didn't want to be part of it anymore. And clearly he wasn't able to get past that. And the only person he has to blame is himself. I feel bad for somebody if they really were really talking about ending their life to a bartender, Clearly, maybe he needed some help. But again, it sounds like he put himself into that situation.
Well, he definitely did as far as Kim is concerned in their relationship. In early 1997, a bartender at Gallagher's Bar witnessed a heated exchange of words between Bob and Dennis. Now, she couldn't hear what was said, but it was clear Bob was upset. Bob eventually left, and Dennis sat at the bar without saying anything. Dennis's mother, Cecilia, told the Daily Advocate that he received threats. She warned him to be careful. According to Cecilia, he told me, "Oh, Mom, you watch too many television shows." I told him he'd come in the darkness of the night. He went to the police, but they said they couldn't help him until he was harmed. By the time he was harmed, it was too late.
Yeah, you hate to hear that, right? Can't really do much for you until you're harmed, but sometimes
harm means kill.
Yeah.
And then it's too late to do anything. On the night of February 22nd, 1997, Kim and Dennis went to 2 bars in downtown Greenville. They were last seen together around 1:30 a.m. on February 23rd, leaving a bar called Bumpers. They left together in Dennis's car to go back to his duplex on North Chippewa Drive in Greenville. Kim's sons were staying with their aunt and uncle and last saw her on the evening of February 22nd before she went out. They couldn't get in contact with her all day on February 23rd and went to Dennis's house looking for her on the morning of February 24th, 1997. Kim's son Jamie said in his interview for the show Cold Justice that he called Dennis's house, but the line was busy all day. He called again on the morning of the 24th, and it was still busy. So he knew something was wrong.
Yeah, I bet he had that feeling you get when you know something's not right.
Yeah, you just have like a pit in your stomach. You feel like, oh, something bad has happened.
Yeah.
Their uncle took them to Dennis's home on their way to school. Jackie saw that the front door was locked, so he walked around the house and found the glass sliding door open a few inches, which was something Dennis never did. He entered the house and found Kim and Dennis dead on the floor. And it was neighbors who heard the boys screaming after they found their mother's body.
Oh man, I just can't imagine what that would have been like.
I mean, they were on their way to school.
Yeah.
Something they did every day, normal stuff, right? Yeah, sure, they're worried about their mom, but in a million years, they couldn't have guessed that they were going to find her and Dennis dead in his home.
And to hear them cry out like that.
Neighbor Cliff Fleetwood, who lived across from the crime scene, told the Daily Advocate, "I didn't know anything was going on until her son started running around the house across the street screaming, and then came and used our phone. When he came in the house, we tried to console him. He was yelling, 'My mom and Denny are dead.' My wife and I both prayed for them."
I mean, it's tragic.
According to the Daily Advocate, Kim's sons went to the police department shortly before 8 a.m. and told the patrolman their mother was dead. The patrolman followed the boys to the address and requested a detective rescue squad in the fire department be sent to the house. He told dispatch the scene looked suspicious, but there were no immediate signs of foul play. The fire department checked for possible carbon monoxide fumes, but everything was within normal range. Kim and Dennis were lying face down in the front dining area. They were fully clothed and actually still wearing their coats, indicating they died as soon as they entered the home.
Well, it sounds like their killer was waiting for them inside the house.
Yeah, it's an interesting fact of the crime scene. Obviously, these people hadn't yet had a chance to take their coats off. And I think that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
Kim's head was on Dennis's leg, and she was clutching his pants leg. Kim was shot 3 times in the torso. Dennis was shot twice and had 10 deep incision wounds on his neck.
Wow.
So very brutal.
Some rage there.
Yeah, I think so. And like we said, right, there's clear evidence that the killer had been lying in wait. Also, the phone and cable wires at the back patio were cut, and the sliding glass door had been pried open. The thermostat had been turned up to about 90 degrees, possibly to speed up decomposition and cause confusion about the time of death. And we've seen that in other cases as well.
Yeah. I mean, but somebody has to have a little bit of knowledge to figure that out.
Yeah, some knowledge of decomp and things like that. Now, you could get that from watching TV shows or whatever. I'm still wondering why thermostats go up to 90 degrees. Who's putting their thermostat on 90 degrees?
You know, I'm going to say when my mom, towards the end of her life, she would kick that bad boy up a lot. Like,
was it in the 80s?
Yeah, it was up in the mid 80s. And I'd go over there and be like, "Mom, what are you doing?" You know, I'd be taking off clothes when I walked in that door just so I didn't feel like I was suffocating. Turn that thing down.
That's like, you know, my wife's car, the speedometer goes up to 180.
Yeah.
I know for a fact her car will not go 180.
Yeah.
You don't need to put it up that high.
Right.
You know, folks, starting something new can be terrifying. You take this podcast, for example. When Gibby and I started, we didn't really even know what we were doing. And we had all kinds of worries. What if nobody listened? Now, we know that we were right in believing in ourselves and launching the podcast. Despite all the fears and hesitations, it also helps when you have a partner like Shopify on your side to help. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel to True Crime All the Time, to brands just getting started. Shopify helps you easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. Shopify helps you get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. Best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/unsolved. Go to shopify.com/unsolved. That's shopify.com/unsolved. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states. So you mentioned, right, a little premeditation. The person had to know something about doing this, putting the heat on. But it also tells me that they didn't expect the bodies to be found as quickly as they were.
Yeah.
They thought this heat maybe would have a chance to work for some period of time. Now, once the bodies are found, though, the heat's still going to be at 90 degrees. And like I said, nobody sets their heat at 90. So isn't the coroner then going to take that and factor it in?
You would think, right?
So it kind of works against what you're trying to do, probably. Police initially told the media that they didn't know the caliber of weapon used, but it appeared Dennis's gun cabinet had been tampered with. Investigators soon confirmed that Kim and Dennis were killed by a .22 caliber gun taken from Dennis's gun cabinet. This gun cabinet was in one of the bedrooms, and after removing the gun, the killer fired a test round into a pillow in the bedroom.
Okay, wanted to make sure it actually would fire?
I guess. Now, the murder weapon was never found, but the knife used to stab Dennis was found in the kitchen sink, and only his blood was found on it. So a couple of things jump out at me. Number one, the killer apparently doesn't bring a gun or any type of weapon with them because both of the implements they use came from Dennis's house.
Yeah.
So, A, did the person know that Dennis had a gun safe, or did he just stumble upon it walking around the house? Now, I think most people would reasonably know that they're going to be able to find a knife in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's true.
So you could make that argument. Maybe that was the plan all along, and he stumbled upon the gun safe and thought, well, this will be better.
Right. So let me try one of these out, make sure it fires first, and it did.
But I think it does say something when the person doesn't come armed with anything. But they broke into the house and laid in wait, so they had plans.
So maybe it was somebody that didn't plan on doing something at that moment, but the rage overtook them that night.
Or maybe they weren't expecting them to come home.
Maybe.
And were surprised. I don't know. I think maybe you're probably more on the right track. And then I think the second thing was only Dennis's blood being found on it. You know, we've talked a lot about stabbings, and it's very common for the perpetrator to cut themselves, especially with, you know, larger number of stab wounds. It's very easy for your hand to slip down the blade and for you to get cut. But that couldn't have happened here.
Well, yes. But, you know, I think it happens more when you have the victim fighting against you. But if the victim, in this case, you know, Dennis, was dying or already dead from the gunshot wounds, then there would be less fighting back.
Yeah, I think that's true. The Daily Advocate reported that an hour into the investigation, an employee at a local doctor's office informed police of a suspicious vehicle in the back lot of the office. The car was Kim's, and it was parked sideways. It was found an eighth of a mile from the crime scene. A yellow glove was found near the lot. Police interviewed Bob Stephan on February 24th. He was the only suspect, but he was not arrested. Bob talked to his attorney and allowed police to search 2 addresses, but nothing was found. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, Kim stood to get half of some farmland she and Bob owned. Bob was also the sole beneficiary to Kim's insurance policy.
So there's some motive.
There's definitely some monetary motive. We've already talked about the controlling aspect of his behavior. Now we're throwing into the mix what could be, and we don't know the exact amounts, but what could be, a sizable amount of money.
Yeah.
Between the half of the farmland and the life insurance payout. At the time of the murders, the divorce proceedings were coming to an end. Just 6 days before Kim was killed, a judge scheduled a hearing to finalize the divorce in March. So, you can make of that a few things. I think probably a lot of people will look at it as time was running out and maybe, Bob had to act before it was finalized.
Yeah, because once it's finalized, then she's legally gone from his life. And whatever the judge decides to do about splitting up property and things like that will take place.
And in the event of her death, would go to somebody else, one of her heirs.
Exactly.
Bob didn't have a strong alibi for the night of the murders. He went on a date set up by his friend, Patty Burton, which ended at 8:30 p.m. Patty's from the Dayton area. She met Bob, a handyman, when he worked on sinks and cabinets in her house. The woman Bob went on a date with was Dana Williams. Dana worked as a nurse and at one point cared for Patty Burton's husband. Years later, she did an on-camera interview with investigators for the show Cold Justice. She said she agreed to go on the blind date with Bob if Patty went too. Bob didn't say much, and Patty did most of the talking. They went to a church and to a barn. Dana had to go home around 8:30 because she had work the next day. Bob left with Patty. In his original interview tape, Bob told police he left Patty's house at approximately 8:30 p.m. He admitted that he drove by Kim's place on the way into town. He didn't see her car, so he went around the block to the American Legion post. He continued driving to see if his brother was home and then returned home down backcountry roads.
It just seems like a lot of the time is really not accounted for.
Yeah, and I think that's why people said, just wasn't, really a strong alibi. When you say that you're kind of driving down backcountry roads, okay, how long did it take you? Now, there was a bartender at the American Legion post who reportedly saw Bob that night, but that man has since died. According to the Daily Advocate, Bob Stephan's life was threatened after police said he was the only suspect in the murders. Anonymous calls were placed to the Darke County Sheriff's Office and the Greenville Police Department, which Bob was made aware of. But he continued to be the prime suspect, even though there was a rumor in town that Kim's sons committed the murders. However, there's no evidence to support this rumor, and the crime scene was too methodical to have been planned by young children. Kim's oldest son was only 15 at the time of the murder. So a lot of people who kind of have looked at this case just think there's no way 2 kids that young, the oldest being 15, could have really planned this out and carried it out
right
in the methodical way it was.
Not really that believable.
On February 26th, police acted on a tip and searched Greenville Creek in hopes of finding the murder weapon. This area was just a mile from Bob's home. During the search, a passing motorist stopped on the bridge and told officers, if you're looking for the weapon down there, you might as well stop. If you want the gun, you'd better go look on down the road.
Well, that's interesting.
That's so strange. Hey, officers, if you're looking for the weapon, you're looking in the wrong place. Go down this way.
Yeah, you might find it down there.
How in the world would you know that?
I mean, I would have been like, hey, buddy, jump in my cruiser. Let's go down and you kind of point out where you think I should be looking at.
Or at the very least, let me in on this insight that you have, how you know it. So police were searching for this man who drove off in a maroon Ford F-150 truck. I get that. I could see how they would want to talk to him a little bit more. Between March 8th and March 14th in 1997, someone broke into Kim's home. Her son reported the burglary and indicated that someone went through her drawers and took 2 birth certificates and miscellaneous papers.
Okay. It seems strange.
Very strange, right? For a burglar to target birth certificates and miscellaneous papers. Not gold, silver, antiques, televisions, DVD players, things like that. Birth certificates.
Maybe the miscellaneous papers were related to the life insurance.
Yeah, I didn't find a lot more about, what the miscellaneous papers actually were. But I think, for me, the point is, what burglar breaks into a home to steal a bunch of papers?
Yeah.
Not many. That kind of skews towards the perpetrator knowing the victim and being there for very specific items for very specific reasons. In early November 1997, Bob Stephan was charged with phone harassment of Kim's family. He remained silent on the other end of the line when they answered the phone and put a block on his line so it wouldn't show up on caller ID. But obviously they must have figured out it was him, right? The authorities, they charged him. But, the question I would ask is, why?
Yeah, why would you do something like that?
Regardless of whether Bob had anything to do with these murders, why would you call and harass her family? Is that more along the lines of control, right? You are making people feel a certain way.
Right.
And is that giving him a sense of control?
It must have.
On November 30th, deputies responded to the Fort Jefferson Cemetery on a report of shots fired. When they arrived, they found Bob Stephan in his truck, unloading bullets from his handgun. Kim's family was visiting her grave when Bob arrived, threatened them, and pointed a loaded gun at them.
Yeah, this guy's not okay.
Nothing he's doing is making sense. First of all, if you didn't have anything to do with the murders, you're really making it look to other people like you did.
Absolutely you are.
And if you did have something to do, why would you even want to draw attention to yourself?
Or is he trying to say, hey, nobody should be able to come visit her because she still belongs to me?
I don't know. I'm almost getting this feeling like, he can no longer control Kim. So he's going to try to start controlling her family.
Yeah, it seems like it.
According to Kim's brother-in-law, Shane Murray, he and Kim's brother, Tony Donovan, came to the cemetery to visit her grave. They were kneeling at the gravesite when they saw Bob's truck pass by the cemetery, turn around, and block their truck in. Every time they tried to back out, Bob would move his truck to block them. He held them at gunpoint for 30 minutes. According to Shane Murray, he'd put the gun up to the window, point it to the side so we could see it was a gun, and then he would cock it. He kept waving it at us off and on for a good half hour before we got out of there. I mean, either this guy is experiencing some mental health issues, because that's one possibility, or, like I said, he's just trying to control her family in any way possible, scaring them, right? By calling and not saying anything. Is he driving by her grave just to see if any of her family are out there? And then if so, he pulls in?
It sounds like it.
Because let's not forget, he did drive by her house a lot after she left him.
But this sounded like something that could have really escalated.
Well, anytime you have a gun, things can escalate quickly. First of all, you don't know if one of these two guys has a gun in the truck.
Exactly.
I can tell you if right now in rural Ohio, there's a very good chance that someone will.
Yep, you're right. For sure, this could have went sideways really quick.
And at the very least, it's criminal, right? What he's doing is a criminal act.
Yeah.
You cannot threaten people. You can't point a gun at a person for no reason.
And you can't let them not leave.
Right. There's a bevy of charges, I think, that you can be looking at for that.
Yeah.
When Murray was able to get away, he drove to the home of Kim's stepfather, Bud Penny, who lived less than a mile from the cemetery, and called 911. Murray told the Daily Advocate, "I truly thought he was going to kill us. I still don't know why he didn't pull the trigger." Penny and his son Buddy then drove down to the cemetery, and they got into a verbal confrontation with Bob. Shortly after, Murray and Donovan returned and found Bob parked beside Kim's grave. He pointed the gun at Bud Penny and said it was their last warning and the next time he was going to pull the trigger. The police arrived shortly after. Can we talk about this guy, Bud Penny, for a moment? He and his son go down to confront Bob after they've already been told he's got a loaded gun and he's waving it around. All right. That takes a little bit of stones.
It does. But there's just some people, are going to say, hey, I don't like what you're doing. If I got people who want to visit this gravesite, they should be able to visit this gravesite without you coming in here harassing them. What are you going to do? Shoot me?
No, but the other thing that jumped out at me is, does Bob Stephan not realize that the police are going to be headed his way? It's almost like he wasn't fazed by it.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if he was okay.
Yeah, me too.
Mentally.
Yeah, I'm wondering that as well. Bob was charged with improper handling of a firearm, aggravated menacing, drug paraphernalia, and drug abuse. Officers found marijuana under the seat of his truck.
I mean, it sounds like they could have probably charged him with a few more things too, but.
Yeah, something, I don't know if it's kidnapping, but there is a charge about not letting someone leave. Kim's stepsister, Teresa Murray, said about the charges and the fact that Bob made bond hours after he was arrested. At first, I thought this was a step in the right direction, but with just misdemeanor charges for pointing a loaded gun at someone and saying you plan to kill them. I don't know. I can't believe someone can get out of jail for doing something like this. Well, I can believe that someone can get out of jail.
Sure.
But I am kind of surprised that this only resulted in misdemeanor charges. Because like you said, I feel like they really could have thrown the book at him as far as charging him. But maybe they didn't have the evidence. Maybe they didn't believe the word of these two people. I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at least they were able to witness some of the things when they got there, but they weren't able to witness what happened to the two other guys because they weren't there when all that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe this part about him not letting them leave the cemetery, maybe they just couldn't corroborate that. I don't know. Greenville police were also investigating other reports of phone harassment and alleged stalking of family members. Kim's son Jamie was chased by Bob late on November 28th. According to Jamie, he was forced out of a bowling alley and chased by Bob in his truck for 4 blocks until he got to his aunt's house. Dennis's sister, Sherry Vance, also said she saw Bob drive by her home at 2:30 a.m. on November 30th. So for me, if all these accounts are correct, it's like this guy is obsessed. Maybe he was obsessed with the victims.
Right.
Again, this is if he had anything to do with the murders.
Sure.
But he obviously was obsessed with their families.
Yeah, clearly.
If these things are true, because after the murders, he's doing all kinds of things to family members. It's like he can't leave them alone.
Is it just because he's trying to hang on to any piece of her through these family members?
I don't know. I do think control is such a big deal with some of these individuals. And they get control or that feeling of control from all kinds of different things. A year after the murders, it was reported that Bob Stephan remained the prime suspect. By this time, both families had offered rewards, hired PIs, and questioned police as to why no arrest had been made yet. On May 12, 1998, Bob Stephan pleaded no contest to possession of a loaded firearm in a motor vehicle and drug abuse. He opted to take a plea deal. Minutes before his trial was supposed to start, the prosecution agreed to dismiss the aggravated menacing and drug paraphernalia charge and recommended the maximum penalties on the drug abuse and possession charges. He received a $1,000 fine for carrying a loaded firearm in a vehicle and a $100 fine for the drug abuse charge. He was ordered to spend 180 days in jail with all but 3 days suspended on the condition he have no similar violations for a year. So from all of that, he did 3 days in jail and paid $1,100 in fine.
Pretty much a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. I mean, again, how much could they corroborate, right? Was it just these guys' word against his? I mean, there's a lot of factors here, and we don't really know the answers to some of that. Bob also agreed to forfeit the gun he possessed at the time of the incident and to have no contact with the victims' families. Now, that's a big one there.
That is a big one, if he can honor it.
Because I do believe he was in stalking, harassment mode. For what reasons, we don't really know.
Yeah.
The murder of Kim Stephan and Dennis Young remains a cold case. In 2015, the show Cold Justice covered the case, and investigators re-interviewed witnesses. As part of the episode, a confidential informant who knew Bob's friend Patty Burton came forward a few years prior to filming and claimed Patty admitted to committing the murders. The informant claimed they were with Patty and her nephew Scott Myers. The witness was warned about Patty prior to meeting her and was told to avoid her because she allegedly committed the murders. They were all sitting around smoking marijuana, and the conversation shifted to murders. When Patty allegedly said she was involved, the witness thought she was joking, but Patty reportedly said, "No, I did it," and that bitch got what she deserved.
Wow.
According to the witness, Patty was adamant about having committed the murders. Now, police spoke to Patty's nephew, Scott Myers, who told a different story. Myers alleged that Patty insinuated she did it, but never confessed outright. All she said was, "You know how it is, Scott. If you want something done, do it yourself." So, for me, coming out and admitting to people that you committed the murders, that's pretty dumb. But even insinuating that you had something to do with these murders, it's not the smartest thing to do.
No, it's not. Or maybe she was just trying to make her sound tough.
Yeah, people do that sometimes. Investigators found Patty and spoke to her again. She was asked if she recalled making a comment that she got what she deserved. Patty denied saying this. She also denied going on the blind date with Bob and Dana Williams on the night of the murders. Investigators believe that although Patty might have made certain claims, her state of mind and the lack of evidence against her most likely ruled her out as a suspect. The Cold Justice team also received new information from Kim's former landlord, Forrest Pittman. Bob worked for Pittman as a handyman. One day, Kim came to Pittman's office and said she needed a rental because she was leaving Bob. Pittman put her and the kids in the home she was living in at the time of the murders. After the murders, when he was getting ready to put the house back up for rent, he noticed that the outside vent for the furnace was disconnected, meaning the gas was not going outside like it should. He said it didn't look accidental. He suspected Bob had tampered with it to try to kill Kim and the kids.
Wow.
Again, some of this stuff, these people who come forward, even though some of them might be well-meaning, I don't really think there's a lot of evidence here,
right,
if any, but it's interesting what they have to say. Yeah, it's theories, and it's based on things they claim they saw or heard. The cold justice team went to the DA with their information. He said he felt encouraged and was going to review the case thoroughly. Bob Stephan has never been charged with the murders, but he remains the only confirmed suspect. Unfortunately, in this case, the physical evidence is of limited value because there was no biological material left behind by the shooter.
That makes it tough.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like, they have any DNA or really any type of, or much physical evidence. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, because the physical evidence they do have has already been tested multiple times, there is nothing left. And that is, the problem that you run into in many cold cases, unsolved cases. They used the physical evidence, they tested it back when DNA wasn't as good. And now that it is so much better, a lot of times they don't have any left to test.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a real problem because, without new evidence, it may be really hard, if not impossible, to solve this crime.
That's what I was just thinking. This is one that might remain technically unsolved.
Yeah. I mean, as we wrap this thing up, like I said in the beginning, the fact that the police even come out and say Bob Stephan is the prime suspect, to me, says a lot. Because normally police are really careful about who they call a suspect versus a person of interest and all of that. I will say, obviously, between what he would have lost in the divorce and what he would have gained from Kim's life insurance, there was probably a good deal of financial motive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you want to look at it that way. And then there's this control aspect that we keep talking about, from the things that we've heard from Kim's friends and other people, family and friends. He did seem like a pretty controlling person. Now, I don't know what to make of what he did after the murders, kind of harassing or stalking her family and maybe even some of his, Denny's family members.
Yeah.
If all of that stuff that people said was correct, why? What would be the point of that?
Yeah. And why put a spotlight back on you again, right?
Well, could a person possibly be thumbing their nose at the police and the family? Basically like, hey, I'm right here, but you can't do anything to me. Now, I'm not going to come out and say I did it, but I'm going to keep messing with you. I don't understand the reasoning behind it, but I'm just trying to come up with different theories as to why someone would do that if that's the way it really went down.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like, to me, he was somewhat unstable.
Yeah, I kind of thought that way too. And then, back to this theory some people had that Kim's sons were involved. The oldest was 15, so obviously the younger one was even younger than that. The way that this crime occurred, with very little physical evidence being left behind, it doesn't seem like a very young person committed these murders.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
What would have been the motive?
Right.
And then some rumors that say Patty did it, but then Patty didn't really come out and say that she did it. So, again, what was the motive there? Just because, according to the one rumor, she said the bitch got what she deserved?
Yeah, I don't know. Police, having looked into it, have said they don't think she did it. So,
yeah,
I don't know if they just thought she was running her mouth or didn't really say it. I don't know. I mean, it's easy to see, though, right? With everything that we talked about, why, at the very least, Bob would be a person of interest. He has to be a person of interest.
Absolutely.
And with everything, he doesn't have a strong alibi. There's really probably no way that they could clear him. So are they coming out and saying he's the prime suspect because they just really have nobody else? Now, it doesn't prove that he did it.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look great.
No, he doesn't look good at all. But that doesn't mean much in a court of law.
Does not.
So it could stay that way forever.
Yeah.
I mean, he could die with this kind of hanging over his head as people think he's a killer. He may be, he may not be. I have no idea.
Yeah. And we may never know.
Yeah, we may never know. But that's it for our episode on the murders of Kimberly Stephan and Dennis Young. We got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. My name is Mackenzie. I'm a longtime listener of your guys' podcast, and I really enjoy all of the podcasts that you guys have put out. And I recently just listened to the Don Henry and Kevin Ives case, and you were talking about Fahmy Malik, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but he is in a ton of podcasts where he has very, very questionable practice. And I'm not really sure what podcast it's been, but in the 10 years that I've listened, he's been brought up on so many cases as being very, very crooked. Not a very great medical investigator or whatever I guess he is called, but yeah, so I would look into him. Maybe you guys could come up with your own podcast just about him in general, because he's done a lot of crooked things with other cases. And yeah, so it was great to talk to you guys. I hope that you have a good day and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. Gibby and I, and we've said this before, we don't listen to other true crime podcasts anymore just because we don't want to be tainted and say something that somebody else said and
right.
Be accused of that. But it wouldn't surprise me, because I mean, the things that this guy came up with were strange.
Sure was.
I mean, go back to the 20 joints.
Yeah.
I mean, who smokes 20 joints? Even between two people, it just didn't seem right. And so, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But thanks for the voicemail very much. All right, buddy, that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Of free movies and TV shows.
I swear.
If I'm lying, I'm dying.
This is the mindset. Free. This is the mantra.
Free.
This is the mindset. With movies like Interstellar, Dreamgirls, and Gladiator.
Are you not entertained?
And TV shows like Survivor, SpongeBob SquarePants, The Fairly Odd Parents, and Ghosts. Pluto TV is always free. Huzzah! Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.
Hey, it's Howie Mandel, and I am inviting you to witness history as me and my Howie Do It gaming team take on Gilly the King and Wallow 267's $1 million gaming in an epic Global Gaming League video game showdown. 4 rounds, multiple games, 1 winner, plus a halftime performance by multi-platinum artist Travie McCoy. Watch all the action and see who wins and advances to the championship match against Neo right now at globalgamingleague.com. That's globalgamingleague.com. Everybody games.